football, the red zone is where a team has to make small adjustments to ensure victory. As you approach retirement, you also need to make small adjustments to ensure success. This is the Red Zone Retirement Program with registered investment advisor and enrolled agent John Mears of Mears Money Management.
What's up, everybody? Time for another edition of Red Zone Retirement Program with John Mears and myself, here to talk about idiosyncrasies. What'd you call me? So we're going to talk about idiosyncrasies this week and explain the different personalities, John, that you see when dealing with clients. You've been doing this a long time and helping people get to and through, right? So into retirement. So I thought this would be a good episode to talk about.
This is something that, I tell people that there's a lot of crossover between coaching football,
right,
and doing financial planning. This is it, because when you've got 50 knucklehead 14 and 15-year-old kids, and I mean that in a loving way, they all have different personalities, and you have to be able to navigate through all of that. So I believe working with clientele, the clients, new clients, veteran legacy clients that I have, I think it's easy to work with them. And I hear advisors sometimes, and I hate to say this, but sometimes they complain about their clients demanding or asking of this. And I'm like, at some point, you've got to figure this out. You just got to work with these people. And again, on a football team, you have a quiet kid, you got a loud kid, you got kids that like to joke, kids that take it seriously. You got all sorts of you got the smart one, the not so smart ones. You got every type out there. And so you really have to navigate the personalities and get them all pulling on the rope in the same direction. I believe it's the same way with the client base, where we have to kind of get really all, 80 whatever families that I work with, we got to get them all pulling the rope in the same direction. Because if they're all kind of scattered doing their own thing, it can be very challenging to provide the best possible service I can for them. So it's great stuff, and it'll be a fun topic to talk about.
Well, let's dive into it. Let's talk about some different personalities, some idiosyncrasies here. So, working with some older folks sometimes, maybe there's a hesitancy towards technology, right? They can't or won't deal with it. My mom's 82. She's 82, going on 83. And some things she takes to just like that, boy. She's right on it with technology. Other ones I have to kind of keep working with her on it because it just doesn't click. And some people just are like totally hands off. They're like, nope, I don't even want to deal with that. So in the modern era, that's got to pose a little challenge.
It certainly does. I like to tell the story of one of my clients. I'll use a fake name for him. His name is, we'll say Greg or whatever, but he's a guy that when I first met him a few years ago, he still used a flip phone. He was a guy that just did not do email. He rarely did text messages. He was very hard to communicate with. I mean, he wanted to work with us. But it was challenging. So what we had to do is what we have been doing in our country for 100 years or so,
right,
and that's using mail. So we had to learn to actually just handwrite a note, send it to him, and he would respond to it. Paperwork that had to be sent out, he couldn't do DocuSign. We had to, again, mail out or have him come into the office to sign the stuff. What the point is, I guess, as an advisors, we have to be able to adapt to that. We always have to understand that everybody has their certain levels of technological comfort. And we do try and tell people, email is still the cheapest, most efficient way for us to communicate. Mm-hmm. It really is. So if we can do stuff for you versus DocuSign, the errors with DocuSign are so much less than when we have to actually physically sign. So it certainly helps keep things moving in the right direction.
Right.
But it's one thing that I have learned over time is that because I am fairly technologically savvy, but like you said, if your own mother gets it on some things and doesn't on others, we have to understand that that's going to be the way with our client base. And I guess when I was younger and when I was doing a lot of, when I had my large tax practice, I was probably a little more stern with people than I should have been. And as I've kind of gotten older, I've realized that.
You mellowed?
Yes. Now I just throw my hat down on the ground every now and again. But,
gotcha.
But yeah, it's something we just have to realize, just work with the technological level they are. People just don't want, we're trying to give you peace of mind. We don't want you to be uncomfortable on anything. We don't want that. So I just work with them.
So you used to be more like Bobby Knight, rest in peace.
Throwing chairs across,
kicking the chairs, and now you just toss your hat down. So
now I'm not better than Woody Hayes, but just
okay. There you go.
All right, a little grumpy. Yeah.
What about someone, John, who has to have huge amounts of data before being comfortable with anything. So this is going to be that person that's like, they want to know like the minutia, you know, and I like to use my car analogy, right? Most of us are fairly content in the world to understanding how the car basically works and operates. And we know the basic things to drive it and also to maintain it. But there's a lot of people who want to know how to take the engine apart and put it back together. And that certainly can be the case financially speaking.
Yeah, and there's a little bit of nuance to this as well. So there is data that we can provide, and I'm happy and totally comfortable explaining to people how
get
the
down in
ins
the
and outs-
weeds.
Yeah. Well, I'll tear the engine apart. Not a problem with me at all. And I will talk statistics with anybody and talk about the numbers, and we can just drill down as much as they want. Okay. There does reach a point though where we have to talk to the client about, okay, as much as we're going to drill into the numbers, when it comes to stocks, when it comes to equities, you can kind of throw those out almost every day though, because things change so rapidly. So we'll give you the numbers, we'll give you the historical data, but that doesn't mean that that's the way it's going to go in the future. I still like to, so you got to be willing to dig down with that person, but then you got to be able to pull them back out and realize, by the way, the concept is still what matters the most. So we use what we call the 4-factor model when we're developing our portfolios, which is stocks over bonds, small versus large, growth, value over growth, and then the dividend, profitable companies over unprofitable companies. So those are the 4-factor model that we'll use. And so that's what you got to kind of know. Why are we doing this? Because we can goose returns a little bit. There's some premiums we get in each of those categories over, the other choices that we have. That's really what you got to know, but you got to be willing to dig in, because I do think that you've got to be an expert. The best leaders are the best simplifiers. But the only way you can simplify is if you know your topic inside and outside. If you don't, people can smell it and they know that you don't know what you're talking about. So
great point. And actually that walks into our next one, kind of interesting. So the idiosyncrasy of a personality trait that a person who doesn't really retain the information really well. So, you get together once a year and you're almost having to re-explain everything every time from scratch. That's got to be a bit of a challenge as well, right? Trying to at least you have the paperwork, say, well, here's what we did, talked about last year and here's why. But I imagine you probably have to keep some more detailed notes on those.
Yes, you do. And that's just the reality of some people. And it's not that they're forgetful. Some of the stuff we talk about it can be technical, or it can be a little much for people. It can be overwhelming.
And life is hectic, right? You get data going in and out every day. So
yes. So I tell people all the time, and I really do mean this. You're never bothering us by asking the same question twice. I had a coach a long time ago. I was frustrated when I was probably around 20 years old. I first started coaching football, and there's one of my players just wasn't understanding a particular play, just wasn't getting it. And I said to my head coach, I go, so and so, he's just dumb. He doesn't get it. And my coach looked at me with a big smile and goes, "There's no stupid players. There's only stupid coaches." And he walked away, and it hit me right between the eyes that it's my job to figure out how you're going to learn. So if I'm explaining a certain way and I've explained a certain way twice and you aren't getting it, I got to figure out a different way of explaining.
You need to adapt.
So it's my job to make sure that you understand what you have and why you have it. And so if that means saying it twice, if that means doing it in different mediums, perhaps I've done it in a video, maybe I need to give you a visual, maybe I need to, however I need to do it, that's my job to adapt to your idiosyncrasy, because at the end of the day, you need to be comfortable with what you have. And repeating it is okay. And again, finding different ways. Sometimes, just asking someone to reread it will help. But people can be forgetful too. And I get that as well, because we're dealing with retirees and older folks that sometimes just aren't retaining it. And again, because they got a million things going on in their head right now.
Yeah. So. No, I love that though, right? So, I mean, that's your job to adapt to the learning style or figure out how to, get that information to go through and retain. And that's the point of, sitting down and talking with a different advisor and having a conversation and having a strategy session and a meeting, which is why many of them do them complimentary early on, because it's trying to find the right one that works for you, right? Mm-hmm. So if you got some questions, you need some help, of course, reach out to John and get on his calendar and have a conversation about doing that at mearsmoney.com. That's mearsmoney.com. And you can have a complimentary review of your own situation and see if his coaching style, his education style works for you. So that's a great point. Last one, and then we'll do our 2-minute warning here, Coach. Letting the current times and political this, that, or the other kind of affect the way we drive the car? We were just using that car analogy, right? Do we really want to, like, we all want to just be able to retire regardless of the economy. And right now, we know that we can't control what the government or the elected officials are going to do, even though they're supposed to work for us. They tend to do whatever it is that they want to do. So you want to be prepared so that you can retire for kind of really regardless of what these knuckleheads are doing.
Absolutely. It's funny because I've done presentations in the past on politics in your portfolio. And when you kind of go out over the last, whatever it is, 70, 80 years, the markets behave the way they do almost regardless of who's in power, whether it's Republicans or Democrats. So I have to stress that to people. Now, in my client base, they're older and they're retirees. They do tend to be conservative. It just is what it is. And we're in California, so it's not everybody. There's some, but I have to reassure them sometimes that the current regime, if they're frustrated with them, I always have to repeat this to everybody. And that is that this is going to poke a little bit of fun at our politicians here, but I do believe that Elon and Mark and Sergey and Tim Cook and all them, I believe they are smarter than any of our politicians. So whatever curveballs our politicians throw at them, those guys are great entrepreneurs. They would know what they need to do to provide value to their customers, and they know how to turn a profit, and they will figure out how to do that. So our politicians, in my opinion, are not our best and brightest. Our best and brightest are the ones that are running these companies and providing great value to the consumers. Yeah. So they will always figure out, no matter what curveballs are thrown at them, what landmines are given to them, they'll figure out how to navigate through that, and they'll still figure out how to sell you the next iteration of the iPhone. They'll tell you how to use your Google glasses or whatever. They're going to figure out how to get to where they need to do to serve the public and serve the consumers, despite what our politicians do.
And that's like what you do with taxation, for example, or taxes in general, right? Because if you're thinking about that conversation, they're like, it's their chessboard. They get to make the rules. We just have to figure out a way to move our money pieces around in that. And so let's run that. If folks would like to get a copy of your couple of your books that you've got, here's a great way to do that. And then we'll also come back with the 2-minute warning.
John has a couple of free books, Diffuse and Tax-Free Retirement in California, that reveal exactly how you can experience zero taxes in retirement and overcome the IRS lien on your 401k, IRA, and 403b, which could threaten your future lifestyle. These are complimentary, so all you have to do to pick these up 100% free is just stop by rescuemyretirement.net. That's rescuemyretirement.net. Fill in the basic info and he'll ship those out to you immediately. That's rescuemyretirement.net for a copy of Diffuse and Tax-Free Retirement in California.
All right, so we're back here, Coach, with the 2-minute warning. So we got Rose who sent a question in to the website there, mirrorsmoney.com. And she said, it seems like every time I need to make a financial decision, I just end up talking myself in circles. For example, I have some tech stocks that I think I should sell, but I know I got to pay taxes if I do. So I kind of hem-haul around. Another example is the investments in my 401k are probably too risky for my age, but I don't want to miss out on a good thing by being too conservative. How do you advise people when they're talking in circles, John?
Well, it's great because we talked about idiosyncrasies, all right. And I would say this is one of those as well, where this is very normal, very human for people we all worry about FOMO, fear of missing out, and also to overthink things. And so this is why it's so important for us as we're meeting and we're beginning the relationship to find out what the purpose of money is in your life. Money is simply a tool. That's all it is. Money itself isn't going to feed you unless you want to eat your money, but money's not going to feed you. It's not the experience you want. It's going to help pay for those experiences. It's going to help pay for your food. It's going to help pay for the heating and electricity. That's all it is. So what is the purpose of money in your life? Where is that? So it may be a case where we have to find that out, then determine your goals. Because at that point you go, oh, well, I really don't need the tech stock, or I don't need to get that extra 3% because I'm overexposed, for my age in the stock market. And we can kind of calmly, rationally come up with a written plan. I do believe that when people have a written plan, it's a lot easier to follow, and you don't have FOMO anymore. You don't really have to worry about, oh wait, there's a reason. I know what I'm doing and why I'm doing it, and this is what the result of it is going to be. Less taxes, more peace of mind, stability in my distributions, whatever it may be. And that's why we have to go through that. So it's a very real thing.
Yeah.
But the only way to solve that is actually, in my opinion, this person really, really needs a financial planner. Even if she's done well on her own with her tech stocks or whatnot, this is somebody who needs somebody to talk to, somebody to hear them out and walk through this.
The behavioral concepts is very real thing that the financial advisors bring to the table, financial professionals like yourself, John. You can go look up any number of studies that one of the big value adds is the behavioral modifications, for lack of a better term, because we get in our own way and we need somebody who's impartial and who knows the ins and outs to we can bounce these ideas like Rose has. And then you can go, let's talk to them. And here's why what you're thinking is a good idea. Here's why what you're thinking is a bad idea. Right. So having that behavioral coach, I mean, it's coaching, right? I mean, greatest players in the world still turn to a coach. So Rose, great question. Thank you so much, folks. Thanks for hanging out with us. As always, if you need help, reach out to Coach at mearsmoney.com. That's mearsmoney.com. That's his main website. Lots of good tools, tips, and resources there. Of course, you can also just book some time with him at bookachatwithjohn.net. That's bookachatwithjohn.net. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast Red Zone Retirement Program on Apple, Spotify, YouTube. You can certainly search it in the search box of those apps, or just go to John's website and find it that way, mearsmoney.com. Coach, thanks for hanging out. I'll see you in 2 weeks.
It was a lot of fun. Yes.
All right. We'll catch you next time right here on Red Zone Retirement Program, Simple Investing, Smart Future with John Mears.
Advisory services offered through Mears Money Management, Inc., an RIA registered in the states of California and Texas. California Department of Insurance License number 0685203.